My hand is like a shark's fin.
I'm an apex predator.
Chomp. Chomp on it. Chomp. Chomp. I'm an apex predator. And the Oscar goes to Paige Kennedy for Chomp. Chomp. You know, I just want to thank the fans. They really support like the and he gets like a really like kind of like social. It's like I just love bringing awareness to sharks. The shark lives, they do matter, you know.
Shark lives matter.
Oh, fucking that the best thing to come out of that movie. The big two.
Worth the sequel, I reckon. Worth the sequel.
I don't even know the first.
We need to bring back songs about the movie that they're in, you know? Like those kind of soundtrack songs, they don't happen very often anymore. You know, back in like the Men in Black days when every Men in Black movie had a song.
They do them, but they're like swept under the rug. I think I mentioned like that they did one for like Blade Runner 2049, like one of my favorite movies that year. But like the song,
oh yeah, you're
like
right.
it's about the movie, but it's like it's just a pop song, and it's just kind of like it's very like un-Blade Runner, because Blade Runner is very atmospheric, and then it's just like, here's a pop song.
Yeah, but that's kind of part of the appeal, though, right? It's like a very tonally off song, but the lyrics are somewhat about the movie that they're
I don't know. Yeah,
like Kiss from a Rose. You know, the Batman
that's true. Kiss from a Rose worked.
Fucking like all of the Men in Black songs. Like I guess they kind of fit in, but like Wild Wild West. I guess Barbie recently had a song. Like,
did they?
You know that Nicki Minaj song.
Oh yeah, I haven't heard it.
Basically samples the old Barbie song, I think, but it's got rapping in it, so they still happen.
Oh yeah, no, that's it was in the credits, I think, when I saw that.
You've seen it on socials, and I'm a milk of Barbie, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
it's a good song.
Probably, it just sounds like any other like Nicki Minaj song. But you're like, or something like that. She does that like kind of I don't know, Lou Bega, female Lou Bega voice. But anyway,
what are we doing again? All right, the intro.
You got to do your intro.
Hello, everybody. Oh fuck. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Asian Blokes Podcast, a podcast where we talk about Asian pop culture, films, TV shows, comic books, anime, music, food, video games, whatever we're feeling at the time. Really, my name is Dan with a H, and with me, as always, is my co-host Harvey. Hello, Harvey.
Yes, I can hear something in your background. Is there like an ambulance or something?
There's always an ambulance in the background.
There's always an ambulance, but this one sounded a bit different. Sounded like a panic.
No, I just smashed my hand against my desk for a sec.
Oh, okay.
I'm fine though, Tavi. Thank you for asking. I'm okay to continue this episode. We don't have to stop here.
No, we don't.
And we won't, because we got 3 big movies to talk about today, don't we, Tavi?
Yeah, we're doing a slightly longer what have we been watching?
Well, I mean, before we do that, eventually we'll talk about Past Lives as well. Also a good movie. But yes, let's do what have we been watching? Cue the music.
You and I finally watched Barbenheimer.
Yes, you're potentially the last person in Australia to catch the Barbie movie.
yes, that's
in
right.
Cinemas.
Yeah, I at time of recording, I'd watched this movie maybe a couple of days ago. But I'd watched Oppenheimer a few weeks ago now. Yeah.
So we're doing this past Barbenheimer, peak Barbenheimer trend, as is par for the course for this podcast.
We are always late to the party.
Just chasing
that's loud
trends.
time though, right?
That's so true. It is loud time.
It's just like we just come in whenever.
This podcast runs on loud time. So yes, Barbenheimer. For those that are somehow not familiar with Barbenheimer, it's Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's film, and Barbie, Greta Gerwig's film. Somehow the internet put them together to create this meme. Two movies that are quite different from each other, both thematically and tonally,
Yes.
and content-wise as well. Yes, I guess that's the joke, right?
That's the joke.
Two different movies. Yes.
Yeah, but both with very like kind of prolific filmmakers behind each one.
Yes,
which
and
is
both
why
movies almost getting banned in Japan.
Oh, really? Both of them?
Well, no.
Was Barbie almost...
Oppenheimer, obviously. Barbie more... There was a controversy about the American division of Warner Brothers retweeting some Barbenheimer memes.
Okay.
Which Warner Brothers Japan were not very happy about, for obvious reasons. So their Twitter division responded by doing mashups of Barbie and 9/11 to show how kind of like disrespectful it is. Which again, that's also in poor taste. So
that's kind of like I don't know whether you should be airing that shit out on Twitter, or X as it's called these days, or whatever. Elon, fucking, it's weird.
I mean, just keep politics out of movies, I reckon. But whatever, it's happened. Nobody's to blame, but also everybody's to blame. But they still aired Barbie in Japan, and I talked to some of my friends that live in Japan, and they quite enjoyed this movie. So good.
It's a pretty enjoyable film.
Shall we start with Barbie then?
Yeah, let's just talk about Barbie first. That's probably the most freshest in my mind. I like this movie. It's funny because a lot of people have this, or you guys have this preconception of me that like I hate woke movies.
Yeah, and women.
I don't hate women.
Okay.
I do dislike woke movies per se. Like, it's one of the big reasons I don't watch a lot of the Marvel stuff because they're kind of like forced in.
Yeah, I would say you don't have a problem with the idea of a movie being quote unquote woke, but that word in itself has kind of more like it's kind of morphed into something that's like not in the spirit of, I guess, genuine wokeness, right? Like wokeness has always been about inclusiveness, right? And just like, getting a genuine lens on minorities that may not, that obviously have not been well represented in the past, in the Hollywood kind of landscape. But wokeness these days just refers to, I don't know, maybe studios kind of forcing this kind of representation that's not all that genuine, which is what you have a problem with.
I think so. So
right?
That's my big issue. But with the Barbie movie, I didn't actually mind the message in this film because like I feel like the way Greta Gerwig has built the world, it kind of makes sense. And it is a film like geared towards women. So I don't see the issue with like having that message in this film because that's a target audience.
And
but
it's
like
satire as well. It's silly. It's a silly film.
It's a really silly film. I actually really enjoyed this movie. I was the only one in the theater when I watched this movie. I caught this at a pretty late screening, like 8:45, and I was quite surprised because like I'd seen this like on a Monday because Tuesday is usually cheap day, but like I had points for free tickets, so I went on a Monday because Tuesdays is always sold out. Barbie's always been sold out for like these late sessions on a Tuesday, so I'm like, I'll go on a Monday. And I think I benefited from like watching it by myself. Just like I had the theater to myself. I could kind of like use the restroom whenever I wanted to.
Really nice, Tommy.
Yeah, it was really,
honestly,
it was actually quite nice. Yeah, and I enjoyed this movie. I thought Margot Robbie she does well as Barbie. Ryan Gosling is really funny. Yes. I really liked the set design, and it's one of the few times where like green screen background actually kind of works because Barbie world is like kind of fake as well.
Well, a lot of it is
kind of
is
like,
practical though, right? Like a lot of it is
practical
in camera effects, which I think shows.
Yeah. I like the transition from when they are traveling to like Barbie world to the real world, that kind of this like weird thing. And I like how it's not really explains why there's a portal and there's a rift. There's this kind of like there's just this magical fantasy reason why this world exists and the real world exists, and everyone just kind of goes along with it.
Yeah, there's a good kind of like balance of suspension of disbelief here, because the characters are quite silly. Even the real world characters, like Will Ferrell's character and I forgot her name, Ugly Betty. What's her name again?
America Ferrera.
Yes, America Ferrera's character. Like the way they react to this absurd situation, creates that kind of suspension of disbelief in the audience. Like, and you just kind of roll with it, right? Like, they don't need to explain it. It is what it is. This is what's happening. It's more about like how a character like Barbie and a character like Ken would react to seeing the real world for the first time, and how that carries over into their world as well. I don't know if you picked up on this topic, but there's a bit of subtext in this film.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Really?
So you said you didn't mind, the themes of it all, and the way that the themes were presented in the film. I mean, like, there's obviously been discourse about this film prior to this episode coming out, because we are always late to the party. But it is a film that kind of like, it's an easy target for those kind of like manosphere, channels to kind of like pick apart. It's almost like too easy, I guess, for them. Because that's, a big basis of this movie is that strong kind of feminist message, I guess.
But I don't think this film's feminist message is like really that strong. I think like it's strong. It's definitely not subtle, but I think if you watch it closely, I think it's like more or less the extremes of anything is kind of absurd. Because when like, this is probably a spoiler or a plot, but
everybody's seen this film, Toby. Like we said, you're the last person in Australia to watch this film. But if you haven't watched it, I guess mild spoilers for Barbie.
Yeah. So like when Ken like is, I guess, infected by patriarchy and he comes and brings it back to Ken world, it's kind of like this absurd vision of like being an American dude bro is. Like, we listen to rock music, that song, I wanna push you
I love that part of the
really
film.
funny.
And I just love how he kind of misinterprets a lot of things about the patriarchy. At first he thought it was like horses run the world, but then he realized that no, it's actually men. Like those little things, his like kind of interpretation of his man cave, I guess. I forget what he calls it, but it's got a really funny name.
Mojo. Whatever castle. And like they eat barbecue, they drink beer, and they have like they objectify
and just like his over accessorized look as well. It's just all good stuff. Yeah,
because like me and you as men, we like don't do that. So it's kind of funny, but you can kind of see where its depiction is coming from, like just the over masculine view of men
Matchbox 20
in media.
Listen to them all the time.
That's in the band. I forgot who was saying it. Yeah, Matchbox 20. So I just thought it was really funny because it's absurd. Because that's like not really what a man is like. To us.
Yeah, it's an exaggeration, and that's the point. I think that's how this movie kind of gets around like sending this kind of message, but in like a way that is not hateful, I guess. Towards men specifically, because it's silly. It's like nobody acts like this, right? But it is like how a character like Ken would probably interpret things that he sees in the real world, because he's a dumb guy, right?
He's a dumb dude.
I think that's kind of like a good aspect of this film, is that it pokes fun at the patriarchy, but in a way that is very satirical and easy to digest, and easy to not get angry about, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
or take offense
as you were saying before, like, in terms of the manosphere of people. Like, there are a lot of people very upset by this movie and hating on this movie. And it's like, I mean, it's a fucking Barbie movie, man.
It's not affected the box office at all.
No, definitely
not in a negative way anyway. Maybe it's affected it in a positive way, if anything.
Yeah. It's so, like, I mean, it's kind of proving the point of some aspects of the film about, like, very soft egos that men have. Because there is a point where it's like the Kens kind of destroy each other. And, like, if you can sit back and laugh at yourself, it's like, it's kind of true. Like, I mean, like, sometimes when we talk with our, like, female friends or whatever, and we say something like, oh, bitches be cray, and we talk about, like, that kind of stuff, and then, like, some of our friends, they agree. It's kind of like when you watch this movie and we see, like, there's, like, basically a war between the Kens.
Yeah.
And
really
then it's
funny.
Like, yeah,
There's a bit where Simu-Liu's in this film. Simu-Liu is like twirling this kind of ribbon as he's like advancing on the other Kens. It's just a really funny shot.
And it's just like, I think if you can sit back and laugh at like the absurdity of like being a man, you have a good time, you know, like, and just even the absurdity of being like female, you know, like, I doubt any of these like extreme traits of whatever masculine or feminine everyone has, you know. And I think that might be a subtler point of this film where it's kind of like just it can get a bit mixed with the messaging, but I think overall it's just saying like, don't like it is kind of just saying like, be yourself kind of thing. Like, don't worry too much about what other people have opinions on you. But it's just like, yeah, it's like the obvious like one is like that Ben Shapiro guy who has like a 40-minute like rant on this movie. It's just, I didn't watch it. He's like a pretty
I know who
far
Ben
right.
Shapiro is.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm familiar.
And it's just like, man, it's like, just I mean, just relax. It's
just relax. It's like a Barbie movie. It's about a toy line. I mean, like, this is the thing. Like, the thing that I find probably most egregious about this film is that Hollywood and corporations have just taken the wrong message from the success of this film. Like, you can see kind of Mattel kind of like lining up all of their products and saying, what can we make a movie about next? Barbie was so popular. What about a movie about fucking, I don't know, Mighty Max or something? So, like, I think the success of this film is not... Yes, it is because of the Barbie toys, but it's more about what these toys kind of represent to various circles of people. Like, there's the generation that kind of grew up on Barbie that's kind of like, they have this really positive outlook of Barbie. Like, that would be America Ferrera's characters. A generation where they're like, oh yeah, Barbie taught me that I could be anything and anyone. But then there's like the younger generation that sees Barbie as this kind of anti-feminist figure who is like represents everything that's kind of unattainable to modern women because of the way society is structured, or because like they don't look perfect like Barbie does, or you know, they don't have the same skin color as Barbie, for example. Like, so I think that this movie like addressed that really well, and it comes to the outcome where there's not really like, you know, Barbie is well-meaning, but you know, she might have had a negative impact on society at a point. Kind of depends on your outlook, really. And that's okay. Like, the overall message is quite a positive one. It's just kind of be yourself, whether you're a man or a woman, I guess. But
just lighten up a bit, man. It's a Barbie movie. It's good.
Yeah,
go
it's
watch it. You'll enjoy it.
Bit of fun. I mean, I did not watch it in a cinema by myself, Tavi. I watched it in a cinema full of people.
Yes, that's right.
I think
were telling me about your experience.
This movie has done very well in the box office, and I think the audience that I saw it with kind of explains why. Like, it hits a lot of quadrants here. Like, obviously there's the target audience, like young women, right? And then there's like, you know, the average cinema goer as well will recognize the brand of Barbie and think, oh, a Barbie movie, that sounds like fun, and go watch that. But there were a lot of kids as well in the cinema when I watched it. Like, not super young kids, but maybe like 8 years old and up kind of thing. Like, I'm not a parent, so I don't know really. I think kids can watch this movie and enjoy it on some level. Like, there's a bit of innuendo in it and stuff, but I don't think it's like anything damaging. I think there's one F-bomb in it, right? Oh no, it's a bleeped
it's
F-bomb.
bleeped out. Yeah,
it's a bleeped F-bomb. Okay,
because it's PG in Australia, so they wouldn't. Yeah, but what was your viewing experience like? You were telling me that there was.
I mean, it was. At the end of the day, it's a lot of people having fun. Really, there weren't any like hateful people in there, as far as I could tell. You know, there were a lot of men in the audience, and they seemed to be having a good time, like I was. It just one of those little pet peeves that I have about like people kind of like yelling at the screen or like commenting at the screen. So there are a number of moments in this film where it's kind of like it sends a strong message of sisterhood, which is fine. Yeah. It's just that it drew a lot of like kind of outbursts of like, yes, queen, or like just people just kind of exclaiming out, just being loud and a little bit obnoxious, to be honest. Which, you know, I guess enjoy the movie however you want to enjoy it. Like if it were up to me, Tavi, I would watch every movie in a vacuum, which is me and my thoughts.
Just a Grinch, man.
I am just a Grinch. I just want to have. I want people to have fun in silence. That's all I ask, Tavi. Is that too much to ask?
You just have to watch movies in Melbourne.
I'm sure it happens in Melbourne as well. I'm sure this is not just a Sydney thing.
Yeah, it depends on the movie that you're watching, and it depends on how many people are at the screening. Yeah. But no, I had the cinema to myself. I laughed at some of the jokes, and I had a good time. So
it's just one of those movies where people are, you know, they get swept up in it, and they end up yelling at the screen and at periods of time, and laughing raucously. Yes, queen.
Yes.
But the second movie, of the Barbenheimer frenzy is not one of those movies where people are going, yes, queen.
Yes. not when the bomb goes off. Yes.
Woo. No, Oppenheimer. What do you think of Oppenheimer?
Yeah, no, it was good. I actually missed, I think, the first 15 minutes of this film because fucking Melbourne traffic, like they closed one of the roads and we just got fucked over. Yeah, we left like an hour early as well to like have time to go get like some drinks and like pee or whatever. But like, nah, Melbourne weather had other plans for us. I quite like this film as well. It's quite different from other Nolan films. There's not a lot of action in this one per se, and there's not as much of a like. The plot is not as intense, I guess.
It's not a sci-fi film by any stretch.
Yeah, it's not a sci-fi film. Yeah, I really liked the sound design in this film, which is kind of a contentious topic.
Did you like the restraints on Nolan's part with the sound design? Did you like that it was quite audible for the most part?
I never had an issue actually.
I know you haven't. You somehow were able to understand every word that Bane said. But
I just pay attention, man.
No, Nolan has been pretty experimental in the realm of sound design for most, like compared to most mainstream directors, I guess. He's come under some criticism for it because, like me, a lot of audience members found it hard to understand some of the dialogue, especially in movies like Tenet and The Dark Knight Rises. But yeah, a lot of people find it fine. Like you find it like you could hear everything. So
yeah. But
Oppenheimer doesn't have that problem.
Yeah. I especially enjoyed the moment when the bomb actually does go off. And then that's when I guess like the tone of the movie shifts from like kind of almost like a heist like movie where he's like recruiting people. Yeah. Like there's this kind of Inception vibes there. But when it's kind of like silent and then like Cillian Murphy is just like looking at what he's created, you know. And then there's the like when everyone's like congratulating him and it's like silent.
That's an amazing
So we actually had a pretty
scene.
interesting, I had a pretty interesting experience at this moment because like there's bits where like he's kind of going crazy at the same time. You can hear this thing, and then like in the cinema, like you can hear someone like at the back of the cinema go, help me. And then it was just like, what the fuck? And then like I actually thought it was part of the movie, but I think it was just someone who just could not sit through 3 hours of Nolan. And then I think they were like, they just left the cinema. And then I was just like, oh, what the fuck's going on? Yeah. So that was
Melbourne cinema experience.
Melbourne Central. Yeah. But like, it didn't detract. It was just like, it kind of added to it actually. Because Cillian Murphy's character, like Oppenheimer's going crazy. But it's kind of like, there's some like extreme diegetic to the point where like there's a person who was like losing his mind when he saw what Oppenheimer has created. Yeah.
I found it really interesting, like the explosion scene. So a lot of this movie's marketing was centered around this explosion, which was practical. Like Nolan did a big explosion and put it on film.
Yeah.
But I was surprised by how quiet that particular scene was. There's a lot of build up to it, to the test explosion, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the explosion it's just silent for a long time, right? Obviously, because I guess sound travels slowly.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of waiting for the big sounds to happen. And it does eventually, but like when I heard the marketing about like the real explosion, I expected like maybe a more kind of bombastic approach to that scene. But I just found it like very restrained.
I think it really added to the moment though, just the silence.
Yeah, definitely. But it kind of like turned it into a different movie, I feel like. It's almost like the marketing may have been based around this real explosion, but the film itself, like it's quite a small kind of aspect of this film. And then the movie keeps going for another hour and a half or so. Yeah. And it's just kind of like this inquiry, which I found like more compelling, I think, than the actual making of the bomb itself.
Yeah. It's not quite the summer blockbuster, the Oppenheimer style.
No, it's not a 4-quadrant movie.
You see that meme? It's pretty funny where they're like, this guy has re-edited Oppenheimer with Gangnam Style. It's just like Oppenheimer style.
Okay.
And it's just like, it's pretty funny. It's just like, it's so stupid because they're like, I thought about it when he made everyone's like, R.B. And I could just hear, oh. Yeah, and it's just like, it's quite funny. The memes from Oppenheimer are pretty funny. Like the front row watching IMAX front row Oppenheimer, and then like you see like Cillian Murphy's chin, and it looks like fucking Thanos. It's just like the way that's angled. It looks really funny. Yeah, it's like I enjoyed.
When my partner bought these tickets online, you know how you can choose your seats.
Yeah,
she showed me a screenshot of like the seat allocation, and like one person had put themselves right at the front, right in the middle. It's just one occupied seat in that row. I was like, that's funny.
That's a meme. The Oppenheimer superfan apparently just like right in the middle in front by themselves. It's just like But I think since we're not actually like, not to go too much into this movie, I'll just generally say like, I really dug the soundtrack, but I think all the performances were good. I liked Gary Oldman's little cameo in there.
I always like seeing Gary Oldman pop up and stuff.
There's a little of Florence Pugh boob. If you're a fan of Florence Pugh, you'll enjoy this movie. But I think I like how there's a lot of big name actors in this movie who are literally there for like 5 minutes. Like Rami Malek is there, and he's just like
He's
he just
got a pretty
pops
big
up
role
as well.
Eventually,
yeah, like in the end, but he kind of just pops up. Is like, "Hi, I'm Rami Malek," kind of thing. It's like, "Oh, I know that guy. It's Rami Malek." Robert Downey Jr. is pretty like
he's great.
Deliciously like a bad guy.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
Every like it's just a really well crafted film. I wouldn't say it's my favorite Nolan film. I think I still like Inception more.
There's a return of Josh Hartnett.
Josh Hartnett.
Quite like Josh Hartnett. There's a whole story behind like how he was offered Batman, Christopher Nolan's Batman, but then he turned it down.
Really? Okay.
He turned it down because he didn't want to go in that direction at that point in his career, but then he's regretted it ever since because he may not have wanted to play Batman, but he would have wanted to build a relationship with Nolan. So turning that down, and then like Nolan eventually cast him in this film, so it's kind of like a return, like a reuniting of what could have been, I guess. And it's not too late for him. I think he can still kind of be a big part of the Hollywood scene eventually. We've got a lot of people in this film. Emily Blunt plays Oppenheimer's wife. What did you think about like going from Barbie to this movie? What did you think about the female representation in this film?
I mean, there's not a lot, but like again, it's like it's not really the point of this movie. It's a historical film, you know. Like
and historically, women are not there; they don't exist.
Well, apparently there's some people like, what about these women and that woman? It's like, I mean, it's hard to include everyone. All right,
but you're casting like Emily Blunt and Florence Pugh, and not really giving them that much to do. Like I know they both have, I guess, a moment in this film, but like.
I think it's like their absence and they're just there. Like it shows like they don't need to have like a massissive fucking. They don't need to be a fucking girl boss. All right.
I guess they're like any of the other characters that are just there and then they're not there.
Yeah, exactly. Like I didn't even think about like, again, it's not a movie that really needs to have representation. That's not the point. The point is to tell Oppenheimer's story, right, and about how he created the bomb and how he felt about his creation, right?
And I guess, the counter argument would be like, this movie is from Oppenheimer's point of view. So, like, from his perspective, maybe these women didn't do that much. They weren't a huge part of his life. Like, his main focus was the bomb. Like, even the way he hears about, like, how it was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like, we don't see it. He just hears about it on the radio. And that's like how it would have happened back in the day. He just would have heard about it. I guess you're right. I guess they don't need to be a girl boss all the time.
It's just like, just you're going to watch an Oppenheimer movie. And like, it's a male-centric film, but like, who cares, man?
Nolan never really gives his female characters that much to do.
If you're worried about that, go watch Barbie. And people clearly have. And Barbie is the more popular movie. So, you know, that's fine.
Yes,
like whatever, man.
Queen.
Yes, Queen. Like and like the thing is, they're both good movies, so it's fine. Like you got your pick. Like I guess it's. I mean, I you could say like where are all the Asians in this movie, especially a movie about
an
the atomic
Asian
bomb.
Scientist. You must be out of your damn mind, Tom.
Speaking of Asian movies and why we're kind of doing this podcast, but we should probably talk about the real film after 30 minutes of recording.
So
we're
today's
here to discuss.
Main topic is Past Lives.
Yes.
Yes.
There you go. Female directorial debut from Celine Song, who I am not familiar with, but she is our age. I had a quick look at her, and she's a playwright as well. I think she's a writer, and I think her real life husband is also like a Jewish writer as well. So
this movie definitely feels very autobiographical.
So this is a much simpler film than what we were just talking about then, Barbie and Oppenheimer.
I was lucky enough to catch this at the Sydney Film Festival for the Australian premiere, and this was many, many moons ago. So at time of recording. So my memory of this movie is fairly foggy, but I'll do my best. But I'll be leaning on you, Tavi, quite a bit since you watched this just today, right?
Yeah. Oh dear. Do you want to continue?
Of course I want to bloody continue.
I want to bloody continue. So you might notice that me and Dan's energy are kind of weird because we had technical issues and then Dan had to do errands, which ended in failure anyway. So we're
I got that post office experience energy.
Yeah. So
waiting in line for 20 minutes only to be told, no, you can't pick up your own package because you don't have authorization to pick it up.
What an aimless episode. But it was actually quite good because like we're kind of it feels like we've been recording all day for this time. But I just suddenly had like a second wind and like I actually feel really good right now.
Tavi is feeding off my negative energy right now.
I think you were too positive. Because I was like I noticed that like we were talking about Talk to Me earlier today, which will be later in the year Halloween special. Check that out. But like I noticed that I was like getting really tired, and then like when we were talking about Barbie and Oppenheimer earlier, I was just like, man, I feel like really tired. And then now it's like it's flipped. I'm just like, woo. Now I feel like Yas Queen. Fucking yeah.
You're bringing Yas Queen energy. All right.
Yeah. So this episode is so fucking aimless. And we're just gonna keep it all in because it's all right. Because that's what our podcast is all about.
Just scattershot ravings from the minds of two madmen.
This is
one of whom has recently been to the post office. Let's fucking do this.
So I think I was talking about the Past Lives, the synopsis.
Yes.
But it's basically about Na Young. I was going to say Na Young. She's effective a bite, I tell you. She's a pop. It's not Na Young. It's Na Young. So Na Young moves to America with her parents, leaving her childhood sweetheart, Hae Sung, behind and leaving him in the lurch with his feels. She's pretty much over him as soon as she gets there.
Yep.
As part of the course with like most women.
Young love.
Young love. Ooh, shots fired. But yeah, so the plot of this movie is basically they kind of find each other through social media like 12 years later, and then they kind of rekindle not their relationship, but their friendship. But it's obviously more of a thing for Hae Sung than it is for Nora, that's Na Young's American name. And then, she's basically, the film starts off like 24 years post that initial young love. And she's kind of like married to like a white dude that's probably like quite normal as well. But yeah, it's just it's a pretty simple story about young love, but also the reality of life, and there's always a white dude.
Is that what it's about? Is that your takeaway from this film?
That's my takeaway from this film.
It's always a white dude. It's not about
that. There's always a white dude. No, that was like, when I saw the trailer for this movie, I'm like, there's always a white dude in the movie. But no, it's like it's a pretty simple movie. It's a very nice movie. It's one of those tales that can only really be told from a distinct like immigrant story.
Yes, it feels very personal. Feels very biographical. I'm sure a lot of the writer/director's real life is apparent in real life experience is apparent in this film. Probably, like you did mention that she is also she is married to a white guy as well, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure if he's Jewish as well, like in this movie, but he's got a particular surname that I can't pronounce. So, but either way, no, I think this is a pretty good movie. It's definitely like, it feels like I'm watching an Asian film because a lot of this movie's dialogue is in Korean, but this is an American production. So again, it's kind of got skirting along the kind of lines of Minari, which was the A24's film as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm really glad that they let their like actors keep speaking their native language, and that most of the film is in Korean, because this movie was never going to be a super mainstream hit. It's definitely a critical darling, but it's not. The target audience isn't for most people watching Barbenheimer. But like, yeah, those movies actually kind of like little indie things here and there. But anyway,
I mean, that said, the screening that I went to during the Sydney Film Festival was packed. Packed full of like pretty widely spread demographic, I would say.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
Mostly hipsters, but like some older people as well. So yeah, I mean, it's found its audience, and it's one of those films that's always gonna find its audience, right?
Yeah, I think. Well, what I would say is like it's a pretty good movie, but it honestly didn't hit me as hard as I expected it to, because I've come off the back of watching a couple of films from Myth, and this also screamed at Myth as well. I watched a film called Monster by Hirokazu Koreda and Perfect Days by Wim Wenders. Yeah. So those movies like emotionally tore me already. So when I went to watch this movie, it was quite subdued in what I was anticipating, even though like it didn't look like there was gonna be like any Daniel Day-Lewis drooling in it or anything like that. And a lot of the conflict is very like subtle as well. But yeah, like in the end, I did get like a little bit emotional at the end, but I wasn't like I didn't feel like I was super.
You weren't
what's the word?
Matthew McConaughey at the screen.
I wasn't Matthew McConaughey, yeah. Because like it's a pretty like it's a nice story, and I kind of get it as well through some personal experiences that are similar to this movie.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I think like a lot of the performances, they're quite good. They're very subdued. A lot of the characters are very likable as well. So this is a film with no antagonist, really.
Yeah. Even though technically, I guess you could call this a love triangle story, but there is no animosity between any of the characters involved.
Yeah.
There's not even a sense of rivalry, really. It's not really about the love triangle. It's more about that feeling of like what could have been, I guess.
Yeah.
Under different circumstances. And yeah, I think that's a feeling that most people can kind of relate to. Most people of a certain age can kind of relate to.
Yeah, especially these characters. They're like our age when I think of it. I'm like, oh man, we're fucking old, mate.
Yeah. And I think it is effective in telling that story of like just human characters, right? Like very realistic characters and like realistic interactions between these characters. I think I was like, it's a very melancholic story for sure, but it's not super hard hitting, I would say.
Which I think makes it pretty accessible, because it's a pretty, I would say this was a surprisingly light watch for me. But like in a sense that there is quite a lot of like, it's deep in its emotion, but like thematically, like it's quite simple to digest. Like there's probably some hidden layers in the film, like that I'd probably get a lot more from a second viewing. But I think for what it is, it's a really nice movie. Like anyone can enjoy this movie, I think. It's probably like, if you're not really into romance films, you'd probably like this movie. It's not a rom-com.
Yeah.
So
it's sentimental in a way that's not overly like romantic. Like it's not super lovey-dovey. It's more about longing, I guess.
Yeah. It's weird because like this movie is quite conflict-free. So if you were to kind of like try to sell this movie to someone else, like how like would you say like, oh, so there's this movie just about a girl and a guy, and they kind of like were childhood sweethearts, but they miss each other, but everyone gets along. It's like
well, you wouldn't say that part. I think you can sell this movie by just telling the idea of like it's about two people that used to be in love, but then like they drifted apart and now they're reconnecting. I think that just because a lot of people can connect to that story, that tagline, I think that's probably what's going to drive the audience towards this. The fact that it's A24 as well and an Asian Asian directed and Asian led cast, I guess. That's probably because Asians love this kind of shit. They eat this shit up. They eat up all these feels movies, you know. We're all about being in our feels.
Yeah, it's like I said, like it feels like you're watching an Asian film, and it's just like the difference between like the style of like Western and Eastern screenwriting again, because like it'd be very like easy to testicle. All right, so this is take 3. Fucking more technical issues.
Now I'm even angrier, Tavi. You thought I was angry before. Now I'm even angrier.
Good.
Time to shit on this movie.
I'm gonna feed off that anger. I don't remember what I was saying before I think I was just talking about how it was. It would be easy to demonize the white guy and add melodrama to it. I think. Yeah, it's surprisingly unmelodramatic as well, which maybe might be more the American aspect of it. I'm not sure because, like, there is no animosity between Hae Sung and the new husband. I mean, we can kind of talk spoilers about this film.
Yeah, I don't think it's a heavy spoiler film.
Yeah, there's no twist or anything.
Yeah.
There's no like.
I mean, if you want to go into it fresh, you should check it out because it's a good film and deserves some of your monies. So go see it in the theaters. Yeah,
go see it in theater. It's a really nice movie. It's a good like. I guess it's a good date movie, I suppose.
It's not like like you said, it's not a rom-com, but there are some chuckles here and there, and it's an extremely relatable
it's a romance
story.
film. Yeah.
And it's nice. It's a very good-looking film as well, and well acted, very deliberately directed. It feels like a film that is quite close to the creator's heart. So.
Yeah. And if you have a short attention span, it's only an hour and 40 minutes as well.
Yeah.
So all you TikTok crazy people.
You will have to read some subtitles, so.
Jeez. Just like, just watch this movie. It's better than Joyride.
It is better than Joyride. Objectively.
I think this movie did better, but not to go into that film.
All right, so the husband character. I really enjoyed the portrayal of this character. The way that he kind of is slightly insecure of this interloper, Hae Sung. But at the same time, he's quite secure in his relationship with Nora because like they've been married for a while, and they have their own kind of history and stuff. Like there's a part in this film where he says that if this were a movie, I would be the foreign interloper or whatever.
Yeah.
So kind of like a wink and a nod to usual cinematic conventions, I guess, of the past. Which is quite fun because his character is like a screenwriter as well. Is that or a playwright?
Yeah, he's a writer.
Something?
Yeah. I think they're both They say they're both writers. Yeah.
So he's kind of like he points out the kind of subversion of this film where he's not an interloper. He is the husband, and he and Nora love each other. But at the same time, it's hard for Nora, when reunited with Hae Sung, to not feel anything. Like, it's impossible for her to not feel anything. And he kind of understands that as well, that aspect to it. So, just the fact that he's just an all-round supportive, nice guy that shows, like, slight insecurities here and there is just a really good portrayal of this kind of character, I found. Like, a refreshingly honest and realistic take on this character.
Yeah. Because, like, as I was saying, like, there is, like, I wouldn't even call it really a jealousy, but there is this kind of, like, trepidation between the two, especially when, like, Hae Sung comes and visits them for the first time. Like he meets him.
Yeah, he's like, oh shit, this guy is handsome.
Yeah. It's like there's this kind of weird pause. It's not like there's no animosity, but there is something there that's like it's a bit awkward. Yeah. And there's definitely a couple of scenes or a couple of moments where they do kind of suggest the preconception of like mixed race marriage. Like at the very start of the film, it's like it shows the encounter, or not the meal that they have at the bar. Like you're seeing from the point of view of two people who are just like looking at them and just watching them all talk. Yeah. So they're saying like, oh, he must be the brother to her or whatever. As like, and the white guy is just a tourist or something. And it's just like, yeah, it's kind of it's subtle in that sense. And there's also another scene where they're flying back from Korea or something, and then there's the very lovely, beautiful airport security guy who was in no way surly at all. No, he's a prick.
Yeah, but another honest portrayal of
up airport. Yeah, he's just like the way he like kind of talks to them. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And like, "What are you doing here? We're both writers, and are you guys related?" Kind of. It's just like, yeah, it's very much it's a downplayed version of it reminds me of a really funny scene from this movie called Bardot. That I talked about last year, and another super it's a super wanky movie, but there's like a scene where they're like this Mexican family who have been in the States for years trying to come back home, and like the security guard says, like, just keeps saying that it's not your home, and then the guy gets like really angry, and like, yeah, that scene's really funny, and it's definitely much more absurd in that movie than this movie. Like they get like taken away by these like colonial guards, and it kind of looks funny. But so there's definitely like profiling, and it is a subtle hint of like I mean, I wouldn't really call it racism. It's just like, yeah, it's just profiling. So,
well, I mean that is kind of a form of racism, but yeah, I get what you mean. It's like a realistic portrayal. Like it's not out of the realm of, it's not exaggerated like we see in the first scene of Joyride. Not to bring up that film again, it's not crammed down our throat. It is like something that, you know, you could definitely see happening in a airport. I think the way that this movie shows culture clash is quite good as well. Or not so much culture clash, but just a difference in cultures. Like we have Nora growing up in the States, so coming from Korea and growing up in the States. And we have Hae-sung, who is kind of left in Seoul. So there's a period of time where they are separated from each other, and kind of like it shows like their lifestyles, I guess. And you see like Hae-sung, he's kind of like his heart is breaking, and he goes to his buddies at the freaking Hoffen Soju or whatever. And they're like drinking, and that's like a very like typically Korean kind of setting and scene. Just like a bunch of buddies drinking soju together and consoling each other's broken hearts. Like, I mean we've done that in Korea.
We've done that, we've done that several times.
And we're not even Korean. That shit happens all the time.
It's very true, and I think that's like almost like the Asian aspect of us. Like we have gone to so many soju bars, even in Melbourne, and just like, and it hasn't even always been about like breaking up and shit. It's just kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know?
just having a whinge, you know, over some soju. But then that's kind of like juxtaposition with Nora's life in the States, and how she's gone to like a rural retreat for riders, and she's meeting like all these like she lives in this house together with another bunch of riders, and like it's a totally different setting and scenery. I think that kind of like that works really well, like that contrast between the two environments and the two situations, even though they're kind of going through the same stuff. Like they handle it very differently, and the settings that they are handling it in is quite different as well.
I like the also like the initial like the move, because Na Young is quite excited to move to the States at first, and she's super like, she's practicing English with her sister on the plane in a really like cute scene where they keep saying, "It's nice to meet you. It's nice to meet you too." That was a really cute scene. And then when they actually go to school, it's only for like a few seconds, but you can see like just the difficulty of integrating yourself into a majority white school, and it's like you don't see any of the kids be mean to her at all, but they're just excluding her, and that just kind of feels so much more real and kind of like more impactful than say like
Ching Chongs can't play on the slide.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we're going back to Joyride again, aren't we? But like, I mean, even Joyride aside, like, a thing I don't like about American films is the way they handle bullying in these films. It's always like the bully is actually, bullying because he's having a hard life at home, and in the end, the main character does something that brings them together. That's not what bullying is like at all. From someone who's experienced it, a bully is a bully, and regardless of whether they probably just had a normal life, they just like to bully because you're different. And you don't make friends with your bullies in the end. They just stay the bully, and then they just like go on and do whatever, Sure. So, but like in this movie, you never know whether she was bullied or not. It's just like, it's just hard. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe she found friends and had a pretty normal life. You never know.
Yeah.
And evidently, she's pretty, she seems all right in this movie.
She does well. I mean, this whole movie is like, a big theme of it is just the passage of time and how things at the time would have seemed like huge, but if enough time passes, it kind of loses its grandeur and loses like its importance, I guess, in the grand scale of things, which kind of like, that comes out in Nora and Hae-sung's relationship as well. Like, I guess even when they were kids, their relationship was a little bit unbalanced. I think, like you said, Hae-sung is quite head over heels over Nora, right?
Yeah.
Even when they were children. So when they are separated, while she is able to kind of just move on with her new life in the States, Hae-sung is kind of stuck in this loop of obsession, I guess. Like, he gets on with it as well, but she's always still on his mind, whereas for her, it's probably not the case.
I think it's a very, that kind of sentiment is a very, like, Asian sentiment, the idea of kind of, like, being able to live and continue through your life, but never really kind of, like, letting go over what is possibly, like, a meaningless love. It wasn't meaningless, but like I know in like Western culture, like when you break up with someone, it's kind of, you move on quite quickly. It's like that's kind of how you do it. But I know like in Asian culture and in like just a lot of, when you watch a lot of films, it's always about like the longing and like carrying that wound with you for years on end. It's like, it's quite, I think that feeling is quite romanticized.
Yeah, I think Angie put it quite well during your To Spark a Wildfire episode when she was talking about Wong Kar-wai films. It's like a big theme in a lot of Asian films is two characters just stuck in that kind of liminal space where they just can't move on. They're just stuck there. And that's kind of where Hae-sung is in this film, which eventually leads him to reunite with Nora. And Nora's husband, which adds to the comedy. Like, there's a bit of comedy in here, and a lot of that comedy stems from like the awkwardness of the situation, I guess. Because like, again, this is a situation that could happen in real life, and it would be fucking awkward in real life as well. Like just a group of people trying to be polite, but there's this kind of like elephant in the room where Hae-sung is still obviously in love with Nora. And Nora like has some kind of feeling toward Hae-sung, but it's a bit unclear as to what that feeling actually is. And that's kind of where like you feel like the personal elements of this story coming out. It's just the way that like all of this emotion, these complex emotions are conveyed without the dialogue, explicitly saying that this is what's happening. It all comes through in like not just like the acting, which is superb, but also like the empathy on the audience part to be like, if we were put in this situation, this is how it would feel, right?
Yeah. I feel like it's a pretty realistic depiction. I think like there's one point where they're like having a chat, like it's the final like kind of meet up at the bar between the three of them. And then like there's, Nora is translating back for what Hae Sung is saying to her husband, and then she's trying to like bridge the link, but then there's a point where like they kind of just stop.
Yeah, she just gives up because
it's hard to do that. Yeah, so it's just like him and like it's just Hae Sung and Nora just talking in Korean and he's like confessing a lot of like pretty personal stuff, like just in front of the husband. And like it's kind of established that it's like he kind of knows a little bit of Korean, and like it's just like I'm just picturing, man, that would be such an awkward like like conversation. He's just sitting there like someone is confessing like how they like really loved your wife, and you're just like, so Clash of Clans is pretty difficult.
Yeah, I would have pulled out my phone.
Yeah.
I would have pulled out my phone by then. And been making like sounds like throughout.
Yeah. So he's like, he's just like, there's a shot of him, and it's like, I think it's pretty intentional, but like it also, it's kind of I wouldn't say unrealistic, but at that point it kind of feels like a film where it's just like, I'm not sure there was another way that they could have done it where it didn't like kind of take you out of the moment a little bit. It's just like, it's just like, I think it's just weird, but like, I don't know, maybe that's how it would go. But I was just like, oh yeah, like poor white dude. I guess he's just like this dude.
Yeah, you
but
feel
like
bad
he was, but you never get the sense that like, Nora is ever going to abandon him as well. So you kind of, it's like, it's quite predictable in the sense, even though like, I was pretty like touched by the ending, when like they talk about whether or not that this is another past life for them.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not sure if it's kind of bittersweet because you don't really know if Hae Sung is ever going to let it go, if he's going to go back to Korea and get soju with his buddies.
He's definitely doing that when he hits that tarmac.
He's like, he like basically when he's like walking to the airport, he like Libyan huns his way. It's like, because like Nora does it in a very kind of like cute and very like nice cinematic, like not messy manner, which is like it's quite well shot. Like she goes into the arms of Arthur. But I can imagine like Hae Sung just doing it in like a really messy. He's like snotting all over the place. Maybe they should have done that. Like it probably like would have been totally indifferent, but it would have been like for us. It just would have been funny because we like this. We like those like overacted, snotty, like melodramatic moments. Yeah,
we've been so out of place.
It would have put it out of place, but it would have just been like I would have just liked it for the spectacle of it, but it probably would not have served the story. I think it ended where it should have, which is good.
I really like the way it ended. I really like the scene where the two of them are left alone, and they're waiting for Hae Sung's taxi. It's just a very like deliberately shot, a very deliberate shot, I should say. Like the two of them, they're standing face to face. The camera is showing their side profile, and there's like I don't usually notice this kind of film, but there's like a garage door in the background. So you can see like the horizontal lines of the garage door makes it really like evident that they're getting closer and closer together. Like you're kind of drawn in to how slowly they like closing the gap between them. And you're like, oh shit, is something going to happen? But then it doesn't. And then he goes off on his way. So I think probably a lot of this film is quite like deliberate. Like I feels like the director has had a lot of time to think about this and how she wants to tell this story. A story that's probably pretty personal to her. I think if I had one criticism of this film is that it is a short film, but it does feel kind of narratively light at times. Like I feel like it would have been a really good short film, but perhaps as a feature, it is a little bit is overextending its plot a bit. Because there are some scenes between Hae Sung and Nora where it feels like they're kind of rehashing the same conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Did you find that at all?
Yeah, no, actually, I think I kind of agree with you on that. I think that's the point where I said maybe this film didn't hit as hard, is because like it kind of at points was dragging it out a little bit, because they meet twice, They meet 12 years later and they meet like 24 years later. And they probably do have like the same like conversations as well. And I think it's because this movie is really light in its conflict. It kind of it gives the kind of impression that nothing is really happening.
Yeah, the feels kind of carry it through for a lot of it.
Yeah.
But I was taken out of it for a time where it was a bit like, like it didn't feel like there was as much substance, as it could have been.
Yeah, like I think that's what I mean when I say like it's quite a simple film. I don't think it's as deep as I thought it was going to be. And I don't think it needs to. I think it's just like the story itself is quite deep. And because it's so like a personal story, like probably almost to like a autobiographical tale, like real life is often not actually that, dramatic.
Yeah.
So maybe like, it'd make it like, the thing is like to make this movie more, I guess, generic in the Hollywood sense, like to have the like husband and the Hae Sung like have a fight or
just
something.
have a punch
fucking like you fucking Korean son of a bitch, like you fuck off, you white cunt, or something like that. You can't like it'd just be like it feels so forced.
Yeah.
Like
so I'm glad they didn't do that. I feel like
they didn't do that.
I feel like maybe the sweet spot for this film would have been 70 minutes ish, but then that wouldn't be a feature film, would it?
It wouldn't. Yeah, that's the thing. You'd probably be right. Well, the thing is, technically, a feature film is anything that's 45 minutes and above.
Oh, okay.
So this movie could have been like an hour and 10 minutes, but I think it's just kind of hard to. I think a movie, if you're gonna release it like in a theatrical sense, like in a wide platform, I think it has to be an hour and a half. Otherwise, people kind of feel like they've been ripped off a little bit.
Yeah.
It's funny because like a lot of people will be like, "Oh, movies are too long these days." It's like, "Oh, 2 hours. I can't sit down for 2 hours. I gotta fucking, open TikTok and do that kind of shit." But
but at the same time, I've heard some people say like, why would I spend? Well, in Sydney, it's $25 for a movie ticket. Why would I spend $25 on a movie ticket for like a movie that costs $4 million to make when I could spend the same amount of money for a movie that costs $200 million to make? You know what I mean?
And that is the worst fucking way of thinking to go. That is the absolute worst possible.
Yeah, but this kind of explains like how kind of these big blockbuster movies have been kind of killing. Lower scale comedy movies, I guess. Like you don't see many comedy movies coming out in theaters anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it, is that they don't scale the price of tickets depending on the budget of the movie or how long the movie is, it's all the same price.
Movies are too fucking damn expensive to make. Like, and then it gets so fucking generic. It ends up like being cheaper than it. Obviously, I'm a snobby filmmaker, so I'm obviously going to be like, go support like the good indie stuff. But I mean, like the price of what something costs should not be like the value of it in the end, Like a film is like made up of the sum of its parts and more so.
Otherwise, everything would turn the same amount of profit, in theory.
Man, you know what? I should have just watched Indiana Jones and Mario in the cinema. And the thing, I like Indiana Jones, but I didn't watch the new one because I didn't want to watch it. But like, it's just, yeah.
You were too busy watching Meg 2: The Trench.
That was a $150 million movie. So it was cheaper than that one.
Yeah. But yeah, I see what you mean. But like at the same time, if your movie is shorter, if your movie is 70 minutes, you can put in more sessions in a day. So you got to factor that in.
Yeah, that's
as well.
true. It is true. That's why like short film festivals generally don't like movies longer than 10 minutes. Yeah, you can put more. So that's the thing. Like people don't like movies that are too long either because they can't put more sessions in a day. But I think an hour and 30 is usually the sweet spot where people will be like,
this is
I
not
think
the
I
kind of
spent enough
movie
money.
where if you put lots of sessions throughout the day, people are going to pack them out. This is not that movie, right?
No, it's definitely like 3 or 4 sessions a movie a day, and then you'd probably go watch Barbie or something after, or Oppenheimer for that matter,
or Red Notice while you're watching Oppenheimer, just on your phone. Just pull on Red Notice
or Heart of Stone, the movie that we only watched 6 minutes of, and we were like,
Heart of Stone. You watch Simulant instead.
We watched Simulant instead.
I can't believe you watched Simulant instead of Heart of Stone. Apparently, Heart of Stone is not bad as well.
I don't trust those reviews, man. Heart of Stone looks like one of those movies that it's just like most people are like, yeah, I enjoyed it because it had a lot of money put into it.
It's definitely it's got Red Notice vibes for sure.
It looks like Red Notice, and it's just like I probably will watch it out of just like this curiosity, but it's a pretty rubbish movie. But let's not talk about that movie.
How do we get onto this? Past Lives. So yeah, I mean, like I don't think there's that much more to say about Past Lives for me.
Yeah, I think
it's a very nice film. I give it that.
It's a really, really nice film. Very, it's pretty like I think it's kind of like bittersweetness doesn't hit too hard as well, but I think it's quite like a nice sentimental film. Would it make my top 10? I'm not sure. I think I've seen better movies this year.
I would say it doesn't have like the cinematic flair of a Wong Kar-wai film. It doesn't have like a kind of individual style that kind of sets it, that kind of might elevate it. It's just a nice film.
It's a really good film for like a debut as well. So like, good on Celine Song for writing such a really personal story. So I think she has another film that's like up and coming. So I will definitely keep my eyes out open for that.
The Revenge of Hae Sung.
Past Lives 2, The Revenge of Hae Sung. Because I saw the devil star. He like kidnaps like Arthur and he's like
cuts his Achilles open.
Oh man, but I actually don't know how long because we've done so many restarts.
We should probably call it here. I think we got it. But guys, what did you think of Past Lives? If you've seen it, did you find it a nice movie? Could you relate to the characters in this film? Which character did you relate to? Are you the white interloper? Let us know. You can get in touch with us at twoasianblokes@gmail.com. You can join our Facebook group to be part of the conversation, or you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at twoasianblokes to see what we're up to.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I was going to say something, but I've forgotten.
Yeah, it's so fucking late now. I think you're right. I think we've been recording for like 4 hours intermittently.
Yeah.
The sun is setting.
I'm going to go eat some lunch.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the post office for round 2.
All right, well, good luck on that. And maybe you can let the listeners or the viewers know whether you actually got your package or not.
Sure.
That's the mystery. The mystery that's on everyone's mind. And it didn't even cost us any like millions of dollars for a movie, so people would pay. I don't know what I'm saying. All right. Let's leave it there.
We'll catch you later,
See you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.